You're listening to Media Savvy Moms with Melody and Marilyn, a podcast by Parents Aware, your go-to for information on how to talk to kids and teens about pornography and healthy sexuality.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Media Savvy Moms. Today we're talking about feeling compassion, not just for your kids and what they're going through on devices, but for yourself as well. And we have a special guest with us today. Her name is Vauna Davis. She's going to help us acknowledge the emotions that come with navigating all the digital spaces that we live in and all that goes along with that in our homes. Vauna is a life coach. You can find her at midlifeconfidencecoach.com, and she helps women love the next stage of life. She has several passion projects, and they all center around helping people live free from the impact of pornography. She is the founder and director of Reach 10, and that is an organization helping young adults break the silence around the harms of pornography. She is also the chair for the Safeguard Alliance, which Melody and I belong to, and that is run by the National Center on Sexual Exploitation. Plus, she is the former director of the Utah Coalition Against Pornography. She has 4 grown children and a bunch of cute grandkids. She lives in Springville, Utah, and when she wants to get away from her desk, she loves going out in the yard to garden. So I'm going to turn the time over to Melody and Vauna.
Thanks, Marilyn. Welcome, Vauna. We're so excited to have you today.
I'm thrilled to be here, and I've known Marilyn and Melody for years actually now and love them and the work they're doing. So this is an honor to be here.
Yeah, we're buddies. We go way back. We actually spend a lot of time together with the Safeguard Alliance, protecting families and kids from the harms of pornography. And Vauna is a big leader in our movement, and we're really honored to have her on the show today. So Vauna, this coaching business that you have going right now is kind of a new thing. So tell us a little bit about that, about your coaching.
I love working with women who are kind of in the middle, and they've spent years starting a family, trying out new careers in the beginning, building relationships, marriage, trying things out in life. And most women get in the middle and start to feel like it's time for something else, or they want to up their game on what they've been doing and just have a little more success or feel better in their life. And so that's what I'm helping. And because I've had so much experience for the last 10 years with helping people overcome pornography, then I'm always happy to talk about how that's impacting a home and how women can manage that as well.
It's a great space to be in. That's awesome, Vauna. So Vauna actually has a special offer just for our listeners. She's going to offer 3 of our listeners a 30-minute coaching session on kids and screens. And if you contact her at Vauna at midlifeconfidencecoach.com and just let her know that you heard her on the show before July 2020, July 1st, 2020, then she'll hook you up with a 30-minute coaching session for free. She's wonderful to talk to, such a sweet, compassionate fellow mother. So we would highly recommend her as someone to talk to if you're struggling with screens in your family, any of these issues. So all right, so let's talk about moms. We're gonna run this show around Mother's Day, and we were talking and decided that something that we'd like to talk about is mom guilt, because it is real, and it is really real right now, especially with kids at home, and we've got a pandemic on our hands and everybody's stuck at home. But just in general, mom guilt is a real thing, don't you think, Vauna?
For sure. And emotions in general, guilt and confusion and all kinds of emotions come up around screen time and kids.
Talk to us about some of those emotions. that you see as you're coaching with moms and women around this digital space and families?
Well, there's a lot of confusion, there's frustration for sure, a feeling of disconnection. Many women feel like their families are disconnected because of technology. Um, Guilt, like, if I were a better mom, then my kids would be doing exactly what I tell them to do, and we wouldn't be having any problems or challenges, right? That kind of thing is going on.
I love you passed along some talking points that you said we worry about three things: content, contact, and conduct. Let's talk about those things for a minute. So, content, what are we talking about?
So we're worried about what they're going to see online, the content like the pornography or anything else disturbing. Like there's so much harmful stuff out there, and we're just afraid our kids are going to see something bad. It's
Right.
usually we're worried about the sexualized content, right?
Right, absolutely. And contact?
Because connected technology is connecting our kids with the scariest people out there. And we know there are people actively seeking out children to exploit. And so we're afraid of who might get in touch with them. And even their friends, like there's bullying going on, their peers, put um, getting online, the social media like connects kids without any parental supervision or adult supervision. So there's some pretty damaging things happening there as well.
Right, absolutely. And that is super, super magnified right now for a
Yeah.
lot of our families during social distancing, right? Because we're not having a lot of contact in real life. So we're counting on this contact in virtual ways. And so it's exploding, right?
Yes.
We're having to depend on these digital ways of contacting anyone, family, friends. And so we're in this like bubble of contact, and it's scary. It's scary for
Yeah,
parents. It's scary for moms, right?
there
S-
is.
So the third is conduct. What are we talking about?
That is how are our kids behaving online with other people? Like sometimes we forget it might be our own kids who are doing the bullying or creating problems and as well, like, are they following the rules that we set up for them?
Right, exactly. It's funny because I go in the community and we do bullying, anti-bullying seminars, and we like to ask the kids, are bullies bad kids? And they go, yes. And then you go, wait, are bullies bad kids? Is it possible for a bully to be sometimes a victim and sometimes a perpetrator? And they all go,
Mm,
oh, and
yeah.
it is possible that sometimes our kids forget. And we talk about among our allies that it's important to teach our kids to remember that there's a real person on the other side of the screen, right?
Sure. Yeah.
So, yeah, so these three categories: content, contact, and conduct, they're big worries for us as parents,
Right.
right? And you talked about to us, we as parents worry about what might happen and what has already happened.
Right.
So, talk to us about ownership as parents and worrying and beating ourselves up
Mhm.
at first in that prevention space and then after exposure.
Right. So, in worrying about what might happen, like when I'm a big person for understanding our emotions. And when we try to manage our kids coming from a place of fear, trying to control them, then that kind of automatically puts our kids on defense. And it creates a lot of worry for us when we feel like um, something terrible might happen. I have no control over it, and my kids could be ruined by it. Those are some pretty devastating thoughts. And it feels true.
Mhm.
Um, but coming, like when we're working on prevention and protecting our kids, coming from a place of feeling more confident, more hopeful that our kids will learn over time if we keep sharing that message, keep keeping the relationship going is really the strongest thing we can do. Our kids will have us to turn to at some point. I mean, they'll know that we're there for them, and that can make a big difference. That's in
Right.
our control. Like showing up with love for a child, no matter what, is in our control. And that's true as we move on into the space where, okay, things are already happening that are problems in some way. You know, they're seeking out pornography regularly. Um, Lots of parents are finding out that when kids are exposed to pornography, they might try it out and act out on other children, or if kids who get involved in that space are more vulnerable to being contacted by predators and that kind of thing. And when we're dealing with that, then again, it's the emotions that the parent is feeling that drive how they show up as parents to be the parents they want to be and the parents that their kids need.
So it comes back to relationship. And these emotions that I'm hearing you repeating back, these emotions of we don't want to operate from a place of fear or shame, and to be open and love and compassion. And it all goes back to this this space that we talk about in on Media Savvy Moms, creating a construction site, that we like to have a safe place in our home where we can talk about anything, and where
Mhm.
our kids can always come to us, and where there is love and compassion and openness,
Mhm.
and building strong relationships where we always can come back to that, no matter what has happened, no matter what might happen. And that all plays so beautifully with this idea.
Yeah.
So good thoughts of always having that to come back to. Did you have something to add?
I want to give parents permission as well to go ahead and feel the hard feelings. Like, of course, when we get to that moment of like realizing we are frustrated, we don't want to just layer on more negative emotion by getting after ourselves and thinking, I shouldn't be frustrated. I shouldn't be feeling sad. You know, I like people to have time to sit and allow those emotions. In fact, one of the things I offer as a start to understanding this is just having people think about, well, what are the three emotions I feel most often when it comes to these issues of screen time in our family? And I love people to like grab a pencil and write it down. Like,
Mhm.
what are the three emotions? Like, we might be feeling confusion, frustration, guilt, anger, fear, um, all of those things. Like, we have to understand where we're coming from first. And like for moms, like saying to yourself, hey, I chose to be a mom. I'm all in, and this is part of being a mom, feeling some of these things.
I love it. It's a good that's a good point. I We talk about too this white picket fence idea of how we would love to react. And the articles that tell us don't panic. And when your child has seen pornography, and half the time when we read that article, we already have panicked. We've already, gotten upset and had the reaction we didn't want to have with our child. So, giving parents the permission to be in that space and to be frustrated and to be hurt or angry in the moment, and then process that's really powerful, Vana. And to acknowledge it to the point that we're sitting down and writing it down, and
Yeah.
then processing through it, that's a powerful, powerful tool. So I think we're going to take a little break. When we come back, we're going to talk about two specific ways to take these emotions and to focus them in a more healthy way.
When parents share with me their concern over a child struggling with pornography, I always recommend they check out Fortify. Fortify is an amazing recovery tool that can help your teen learn to develop their own plan towards success. It's easy to sign up, it's designed to engage, and it's free for teens. Best of all, Fortify is science-based and has a proven track record of helping thousands of individuals find happiness by regaining their freedom from pornography. Visit joinfortify.com/media savvy moms to learn more.
And we're back, and we're talking with Vauna Davis, a midlife confidence coach and leader in the fight to protect families and kids against the harms of pornography. And we've been talking about the emotions that parents feel, especially moms, mom guilt, and all that, about protecting our families in digital spaces. And we were talking in the first segment about how powerful it is to be able to acknowledge that sometimes we have negative emotions, and that's okay, and that's normal, and that we can work with that and process that. So now we're going to talk about two specific ways to take these emotions and focus them in a more healthy way. So, Vana, I know you had 2 points that you wanted to really
Yes.
emphasize with our listeners, and what's the first point?
The first point is to give yourself and your kids a break and be compassionate with the situation as it is now and with the emotions that are going on. And just love everyone in the story. And what I'd love for parents to realize is this is a highly charged issue in every family. Kids have their feelings, parents have their feelings, but there's nothing wrong with that because there's not even anything wrong with your kids when they're drawn to all these videos and games and social media that are so interesting and exciting. Like parents can understand that the technology is designed and engineered to do that. They're using deep social and psychological factors to create these products and draw our kids in and us as well. I think we've all felt that.
Mhm.
And then when they use sexualized content, that's naturally interesting and attention getting. There isn't anything wrong with our kids for being drawn in. I would love for parents to direct their frustration where it belongs, which is with the technology industry, the sex industry, even government for not stepping in early could have changed a lot to protect our kids. But the frustration shouldn't be at our kids or ourselves. So bringing in compassion and like just sometimes like a simple thought is relax mind and just, you know, so that you can bring some love into this story for everybody.
So important. Love, 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 right?
Right.
Um, I I think along with this idea of compassion, do you think too being vulnerable around our kids and allowing them to see that we're human
Oh,
too?
so much. Yes.
Because I think sometimes I know at least when I was a little girl, I had this idea that my parents were perfect and they never made mistakes and they knew everything. I I hope that I don't give off that idea to my children that I can never make mistakes and I know everything and I'm smart and you're dumb, and that I can help them feel that I'm compassionate toward them, that I know what they're going through, that I make mistakes too.
Yeah.
That it's hard living in this digital world. It's hard for them and it's hard for us too, right?
Yes. I mean, what would happen if we came in to the kids and said, man, this is really a little scary for me. These are the things I'm afraid might happen to you. And it's a little scary for me. And like if if sometimes I overreact, that might be why. I'm sorry. I
Sure.
do that sometimes. What
Well,
could we do together to like figure this out?
yeah, yeah, we love that concept of working shoulder to shoulder with our
Mhm.
kids and having these talks side by side, and, that concept of being a coach rather than a taskmaster or the police.
Love it.
We've had the conversation about, have you ever driven down the road and seen a police officer on the side of the road and you slam on your brakes? Maybe you weren't even speeding, but you
Mhm.
just have that impulse because you know they're watching you and you're like, "Oh, I have to slow down." We don't wanna we don't wanna have to be like that for our kids. We want them to feel like that we're on their team,
Oh yeah.
right?
Love that analogy.
Because and that's compassion. It all comes back to being compassion, right?
And your
Right?
kids are not the enemy, and you don't want your kids to see you as the enemy. Like there are challenges in the world, but they are outside of your family. They're trying to come in. What can you do together to handle those challenges?
Right. So compassion with our kids. We kind of get grasp that concept. Compassion with ourselves. How's that? That's a little bit
We're
harder,
doing
don't
the
you?
best that we can. Like none of us were prepared for this. Like we didn't get any training. For sure, our parents didn't teach us to talk about tough things like pornography, right?
Right.
We're really figuring this out and like imagining that you really are doing the best that you can and that you are the kind of parent who's going to keep learning and improving along the way. And instead of thinking we have to be perfect for our kids, what if we see ourselves as an example of people who keep learning and that we're willing to change, to apologize, to get better? Like that's the best example we could be because then our kids know they can too.
Oh, that's kind of a relief.
Yeah.
I think even I as a parent feel like be an example, like an example with a capital E, right? Means that I have to be an example of perfection. But that's again a really powerful idea to be an example of someone who's willing to learn and change and grow.
Yeah, we call that the growth mindset. That's a thing that we can work on. Like not thinking that we have to have it all figured out. You know what shame stands for?
What?
Should have already mastered that.
Oh, I,
So when we think we should have it figured out, we feel shame and that shuts us down.
I love that. We'll have to put that in the podcast notes. I have to remember that I have to put that somewhere on my mirror. It's good. Good to remember to be compassionate with ourselves. And I think that really speaks to the battle against pornography and in these digital spaces too, because I know that a lot of parents out there, when we end up with trouble in our homes and we end up with pornography in our homes, our immediate reaction is to feel like I am a failure. I'm a bad parent. I lost the war. The end. Like,
Right.
what next? Especially because there's such a focus on prevention and
Right.
protecting and protect, 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 put up the walls, put up the filters, and then when you get to that space where something has leaked in and your children have been exposed, you have that moment of great. You throw up your hands and say, I've failed as a parent. It's over. I lost the battle, right? And that's not very compassionate, is
No,
it?
no. No, and I just had this thought while you were talking. Here we are in the middle of this COVID crisis. We're all afraid of these teeny tiny virus particles that seem, well, they are uncontrollable. Like at some point, probably most of us are going to get exposed to that virus. And maybe I'll get sick or maybe my kids will get sick. But in the same way, like this sexual culture that we live in, like we really can't keep it all out and away from our kids. We're going to all be exposed to it. But the thing is, when that happens, what can we do to help our kids get better? Like it might be a process. Like we might have to do a lot of like caring for them, feeding them chicken soup, like taking their temperature, like just checking in and helping build their immune system over time so that they are stronger, same kind of thing. Like it's not our kids' fault when they get exposed to this. But we can help them use it to build an immunity and get stronger. And it's a process. Like nobody gets over it in a day or two. It takes a while.
It's a beautiful analogy. Beautiful analogy. And it allows so much compassion on so many levels.
Yeah, and just remembering that, you know what? Just like this COVID is not really taking out the young people, then we can expect that our young people can develop an immunity and come out stronger and more resistant as they get through this.
It gives us a little hope, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So that kind of goes and segues right into our second point that you wanted to make.
Yes. So this is another really important thing for moms to remember. You are responsible for your influence. You're not responsible for the results. And we just want our kids to do what we want them to do so we'll feel better. But we don't have that much control. We really don't. We do have control over who we show up as moms. And that's something we can continue to work on and become better over time. We can't do it perfectly yet, but we have more influence when we understand our own emotions and we can manage our emotions, and we can decide what emotions we want to have that will give us the most power and influence, and offer to our children the good things that will help them. So offer the protections on the computer. They may learn to get around them.
Mm-hmm.
That isn't a sign of your failure if they choose to do that. You can offer to talk to them about what pornography is and how to avoid it and why it might be a bad idea for them. And when you learn to offer those things, then you are doing your part to influence. And if moms can just learn to do better at letting go of the results and measuring whether they're successful or not by what their kids choose to do right now, we all have our agency. Even our children get to choose. They might comply right now. They might delay for a while, but decide later. I think that is very common and something that I choose to be very hopeful about.
Mm-hmm.
That the things that we're showing up with now, including our love and our own lives, the way we're living, like will bring them. At some point, they're going to say, I want to be happy like mom and dad. Or, you know what, they might actually never get on board. They might choose to keep on a self-destructive path, and that is also not a measure of your success. Your success is measured by how you show up as a parent.
And it goes for everyone in our lives, not just our parents, right?
Oh,
We
yeah.
can't let other people control our happiness by the choices that they make.
Mhm.
Um, I love the way that you put that. I'm responsible for the influence over them, not the results.
Right.
So, great talk. We're going to go ahead and let Marilyn do a little recap, and then we will have you give us a little challenge at the end. So, Marilyn?
Okay. I always love talking with Vana or listening. She has such a calming, soothing way about her. She asked us to first acknowledge all the emotions and feelings that do come with digital spaces and our families. Of course, we primarily are worried about content, contact and conduct, how our kids might be behaving. I'm going backwards now, who they might be in touch with online or what they might see online. And we need to be careful not to respond with fear, because that puts our kids in a place of defense, but rather to think about how we can instill confidence in them and in ourselves and how we manage these digital spaces. That doesn't mean we're not going to feel yucky emotions, so allow ourselves to feel those emotions. Are there days when we're sad, angry, frustrated, whatever it is, just allow yourself to feel it, acknowledge it. But then this is really crucial. Vauna suggests that we direct those frustrations, not at our kids, where we tend to sometimes, but where they really belong. And that, depends on what they find online. It could be even that there's not enough regulations, not enough safety nets, but that isn't their responsibility, and it hasn't been our responsibility either. So make sure you are not the enemy of tech to your kids, and that kids don't see you as the enemy. Use a growth mindset. As someone who's never had experience going through this, we're the first generation to go through this, and we need to keep learning and figuring it out. And finally, success is measured by how you show up as a parent, not the result of that parenting. So keep caring for our kids. If they're exposed to a virus, then you nurture and you care for them and you help them grow stronger. And I love that analogy. Seems so timely today.
Perfect. Awesome. And just as a reminder of the first 3 listeners that contact Vauna at vauna@midlifeconfidencecoach.com before July 2020 will get a free 30-minute coaching session for kids and screens. And so, Vauna, I know you have a great challenge for us, so we'll go ahead and let you talk about that.
So, yes, I have a challenge, and it's to help people understand the emotions that are driving their actions and how they're showing up as parents. And so I mentioned the first one. So pull out a piece of paper and just sit down and think about the 3 emotions that you feel most often in connection with screen time, your kids, and like that whole dynamic in your family. So those emotions could be things like confusion, guilt, anger, I'm unprepared, I'm overwhelmed, that kind of stuff. And then sit down and write down the 3 emotions you would like to feel more often in this situation. So you might want to feel courage or love and understanding. You might want to feel commitment and maybe curiosity. Like, why are things this way? So, in order to get from those 3 emotions that you're feeling most often that probably don't feel so good, the thing you want to be able to do is look at those emotions and then identify what are the thoughts that I'm having that are leading to those feelings. We might be having thoughts like, I don't know what to do, or my kids are always trying to get around the rules, or my child keeps seeking out pornography, it's going to ruin their life. And it's those thoughts that are creating those emotions. And we actually think that it's our kids who are creating those emotions, but it's our thoughts about our kids. And that's where the power is. So to move on and be able to feel the better emotions that you choose to feel, then you can pick different thoughts that work for you better.
Beautiful. So I think we're going to have a download of worksheet to help you do this challenge, and we will have that ready for you with the podcast notes. Thanks so much for joining us today, Vauna.
I loved being here, and I love what you 2 are doing. So wonderful work.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Media Savvy Moms podcast. For detailed show notes and links to any of the resources mentioned today, visit parentsaware.info. To connect with us on social media, find us on Instagram at Media Savvy Moms and on Facebook and Twitter at Parents Aware. We would love to get your feedback. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a review wherever you listen to this podcast. Until next week, let's keep talking.